The traditional retirement plan still sounds safe on paper. Work for 40 years, max your 401k, retire at 65. But for a growing number of people, this model is quietly breaking down. The original retirement blueprint was built for a very different era. It assumed shorter life expectancies, stable pensions, predictable career paths, and lower healthcare costs. Today, each of those assumptions has shifted, sometimes dramatically. Yet the default strategy most people follow hasn't fully adjusted. That gap is where problems begin. The traditional plan follows a simple structure. Phase 1, work and accumulate, ages 22 to 65. Phase 2, stop working and withdraw, 65 plus. On the surface, it looks mathematically clean, but the real world is not always that cooperative, because the plan optimizes for one variable above all others: maximum money at retirement age. What it often underweights is timing, flexibility, and health uncertainty. The first structural crack. One of the biggest changes is longevity. According to the Social Security Administration, a 65-year-old today has roughly a 1 in 3 chance of living past age 90. This creates a difficult balancing act. You must save enough to support potentially 25 to 30 years of retirement, while also navigating an uncertain health trajectory. The longer the horizon, the more fragile the traditional all-or-nothing retirement date becomes. The timing problem. Imagine 2 timelines. In the first, you retire at 65 in excellent health and enjoy 25 active years. In the second, health limitations begin at 67. Financially, both households may have identical portfolios, but experientially, the outcomes are very different. The traditional model treats retirement as a single finish line. Real life often distributes risk unevenly across time. The forced retirement reality. Here is where the model becomes more fragile than most people realize. Research from the Employee Benefit Research Institute shows that about 41% of retirees leave the workforce earlier than planned, often due to health problems or job loss. This is not a small minority. Nearly half of retirements are at least partially unplanned, which means the work until 65 assumption fails far more than most financial projections acknowledge. Why this matters structurally. When retirement is forced earlier than expected, 3 pressures hit simultaneously: fewer years to save, more years to fund, and often higher healthcare costs. This triple pressure can significantly alter outcomes, even for diligent savers. The traditional model is sensitive to timing shocks, and timing shocks are more common than most planning tools assume. The energy curve. There is another variable that rarely appears in retirement calculators: physical energy. Most people experience peak physical capability somewhere between their 30s and early 50s. After that, gradual decline is normal. This does not mean life stops at 65, but it does mean certain experiences, hiking, long-distance travel, physically demanding hobbies, often become more constrained with age. The traditional plan heavily concentrates free time in the later years. That creates a subtle mismatch. The psychology behind the trap. Why does the system persist if the risks are known? Because the model is emotionally simple. It offers a clear finish line. Save aggressively, delay gratification, everything improves later. Human behavior tends to prefer clean narratives, even when the underlying reality is more complex. The deferred life pattern. You may have seen this pattern before. Someone spends decades maximizing retirement contributions while repeatedly postponing meaningful time flexibility. The logic feels responsible in the moment, but the trade-off is rarely evaluated explicitly. How much present flexibility is being exchanged for future optionality? Most people never run that comparison. A study published in the Journal of Aging and Health found that physical functioning tends to decline meaningfully beginning in the early 60s for many adults. The rate varies widely by individual, but statistically, the probability of mobility limitations rises steadily with age. From a planning perspective, this reinforces an uncomfortable truth. Time availability and physical capacity do not always peak simultaneously. The portfolio illusion. This is where many careful savers unknowingly take on hidden risk. They optimize heavily for account balance at 65, while assuming lifestyle flexibility will automatically be there later. But money is renewable. Time and health are not fully renewable. A portfolio can recover from a market downturn. It cannot restore missed decades of physical capability. Consider two savers. Saver A maximizes retirement contributions every year, but never builds midlife flexibility. Saver B saves slightly less aggressively, but creates periodic flexibility windows. At age 65, Saver A may have a larger portfolio, but Saver B may have already converted some of their healthiest years into lived experiences. Financial spreadsheets rarely capture this trade-off cleanly. The mini-retirement concept. A mini-retirement strategy introduces controlled breaks earlier in life. Not permanent retirement, not reckless spending, but intentional flexibility windows funded in advance. The math is often less dramatic than people expect. Let's look at a simplified illustration. If someone earning $100,000 takes a 3-year funded break in mid-career, the long-term portfolio impact is often in the range of 10 to 20%, depending on timing and savings rate. That is meaningful, but it is not catastrophic. Yet many households treat any career pause as financially impossible, even when the long-term math remains workable. The resistance is usually psychological, not mathematical. The traditional model rewards continuous accumulation. Taking time off feels like falling behind, even when the overall plan remains healthy. Humans are highly sensitive to visible progress metrics, and retirement balances are very visible. Research from Morningstar has shown that consistent saving behavior and fee control often matter more to long-term outcomes than small differences in contribution timing. In practical terms, disciplined systems can absorb moderate flexibility without collapsing. This does not mean breaks are free, but it does mean the system is more resilient than many people assume. Housing lock-in risk. One of the biggest obstacles to flexibility is housing. Large fixed mortgages in midlife reduce optionality significantly. For example, an extra $800 per month in housing costs equals nearly $10,000 per year of required income. Over a decade, that structural commitment limits many people's ability to step back even temporarily. Housing decisions quietly shape retirement flexibility far more than most realize. Credit and lifestyle drag. Smaller fixed costs also accumulate. Auto loans, premium subscriptions, high revolving credit balances, individually manageable, collectively restrictive. By the early 50s, many households are not financially fragile, but they are structurally inflexible. That distinction matters. The real risk is not that the traditional retirement plan always fails. The risk is that it fails silently. Everything can look on track until health shifts, job conditions change, or energy declines faster than expected. At that point, the ability to redesign the plan becomes much more limited. A more adaptive framework. A modern retirement approach often emphasizes strong baseline retirement saving, controlled fixed expenses, periodic flexibility windows, and protection against forced early retirement. This is less about abandoning the traditional plan and more about reinforcing its weak points. If you want to reduce retirement fragility, consider reviewing your fixed expense load, your savings rate trajectory, your midlife flexibility options, and your healthcare contingency planning. None of these require dramatic lifestyle changes, but structurally they improve resilience. The goal is not to stop saving aggressively, and it is not to retire as early as possible. The goal is alignment, aligning money, time, health, and flexibility so that your financial plan works across multiple possible futures, not just the ideal one. The traditional retirement plan was built for a more predictable world. Today, longer lifespans, health uncertainty, and career volatility have introduced new variables. For many households, the plan is not collapsing dramatically, it is drifting quietly out of alignment. Nearly half of retirements arrive earlier than expected. Physical capacity does not remain constant indefinitely, and large fixed costs can reduce flexibility right when it matters most. Small structural adjustments made earlier in life can significantly improve resilience later, not by abandoning the traditional model, but by updating it for the realities most people now face. And often, the strongest retirement plans are not the ones that aim for perfection at 65, but the ones designed to remain flexible long before that date arrives. If this perspective challenged how you think about retirement, consider subscribing for more structured, research-backed breakdowns like this. And before you move on, take 5 quiet minutes this week to review one fixed cost or savings lever in your plan. Sometimes the smartest retirement move isn't adding more money, it's adding more flexibility.